Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. That's what I like. There's enthusiasm. That's what we need to promote career and technical education. I'm so thankful to each of you for, first of all, taking the time and the sacrifice that it takes that's involved in coming to this city. It is not a cheap place to get to, and it's rather expensive once you get here. So I know taking time out of what you do each and every day, the sacrifice that you made to do that, but I got to tell you how important it is. It is so important, especially for promoting career and technical education programs. You never assume in a city of competing interests, and that's what kind of Washington is. It's kind of the confluence of all the interests that are out there, all very important interests, don't get me wrong, that come together here in Washington seeking the attention and the support in public policy. Never assume that someone else is going to do and make the impact that you can do by being here. And I know that you're prepared to go out, if you haven't already, to go out and to talk with members in your respective congressional districts. I know for a fact in your packet there's a Dear Colleague letter regarding the Career and Technical Education Caucus, which is a strong caucus. It is a bipartisan caucus, and as you know, there is not, of the 435 congressional districts in this great nation, there's not one that doesn't have needs for qualified and trained workers and employees, and not one that does not benefit from what I would like to see, a robust career and technical education program across this great nation. So as you go out, do me a favor. If the member you're visiting, first of all, take a look. If they are a member of the caucus, thank them. Give them their sincere appreciation for already signing up, being on the team. If they're not, give them some encouragement. Talk to them about the needs that are out there. And you know what those needs are. And I want to thank you for what you do each and every day in the lives of so many people. And it's just not young folks where we influence through I used to say just secondary education, but today I find kids are exposed to so much, they're starting to make career decisions in middle school. It's what you do to impact not just in secondary those youth in secondary education, but quite frankly as people find themselves in need of pursuing that American dream of opportunity. Well, that comes through education, and specifically making sure we have programs out there in terms of career and technical education. So what you do makes a difference, obviously, in individuals' lives, in the success that people have going forward, but also makes such a difference in this great nation. America's competitiveness, in large part, is dependent upon what you do each and every day for the career and technical education. Because when you look at what are the elements that make up any business, I don't care if it's manufacturing or service sector, and some folks will say, well, it's location, and that's important. And some people will say, well, it's the product or service you're providing. Obviously, that's important. Some people get into the weeds and the nuts and the bolts and say it's the business plan. It's with the overregulation in this country, it's the compliance plan. We got to do something about that, by the way. There's all kinds of things that are important, but the most critical asset of any business is a qualified and trained workforce. Without that, we're lost. This nation's future, our competitiveness is dependent on a qualified and trained workforce. I envision a day not too far in the future, probably maybe 10 years, where it'll be a morning where a business owner wakes up in the morning and that business owner, he or she has had a great run of it, has done well, great product, great location, great service, customer service, everything's good. But they wake up that morning faced with two choices. Now, both of them involve shuttering down their business and their industry because what they don't have that morning, because of attrition, because of retirements, look at the average age of our workforce, is a qualified and trained workforce. And in fact, there are only two options that day. Neither option's good. Both options involve putting plywood on the doors and on the windows to shut it down because they don't have the qualified trained workforce. But one option is they just shutter it and they walk away. They take whatever they've been able to earn and they move on. The other option is not any better, In fact, it's probably worse. Both of them are terrible options. And that is they take the entire business, they shutter it in this country, and they move it offshore. They go where there's a whole lot more warm bodies that perhaps may be able to get the training to become qualified and trained. We have 311 million Americans. I just looked at one country in particular. Our leading competitor from an economic perspective is China. They've got billions to pick from. So we have an obligation, I think, not to let that happen. We have an obligation to do our best to provide a great opportunity for the young folks and older folks alike, those people that are changing course in terms of in later life and may choose to change professions and occupations, go take on a career in technical education career with some training. We also have an obligation to do that for the nation, to make sure that America always remains competitive. And quite frankly, it's what you do. I mean, you were on the front lines of that. I want to let you know that there is a large proportion of the House of Representatives that are that have your back. They're working to make sure that we provide the proper funding for career and technical education training. And I'm not saying that's easy, because as I looked at it, I've been appalled to see how undervalued and under-resourced career and technical education training has been. Even our entire education system and what mandates come from the federal level, and I'll just specifically under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, No Child Left Behind, and I don't doubt certainly the sincerity of the folks that had when they designed that. I think accountability and transparency are a good thing. It was the unintended consequences that I think that have left most children behind. And one of the problems with it, the false premise it was built on, is that every child, when they graduate from high school, is going to go into a four-year college. And that's just not true, nor is it fair, because every child has different gifts. And our role in education, our goal in education, as part of an education team, is to work together to develop those individual gifts of each child, not just to the potential. We expect better than that. We're going to give them, we like good parents, you want to give them a little bit of a boot to push them a little further, and maybe what their potential actually was, to raise the bar for them. But that's something that you do, and that's something I want you to know that the Career and Technical Education Caucus is committed to elevating the awareness, the importance, and support for career and technical education training, so that we allow you all to do such a great job of impacting lives and making sure America's competitiveness in the future is very bright, promising days ahead. Thank you so much for this honor and recognition. This is one that I'm really honored by that, but I have to tell you, I'm really honored to work with my co-chair in terms of leadership, Jim Langevin, a good friend of mine, Democratic member of Congress from Rhode Island. We're a good team. And with your help, we can build that team just a little bigger in the next 24 hours as you reach out to those members of Congress. You're giving them a great opportunity to belong to this caucus. And that's the way I encourage you to look at it. And thank you so much for the honor and the privilege of being able to join you here today and with receiving this recognition. It's truly an honor. Thank you.